everyone, and welcome to a new session with Code with Sally. The session run every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Just heads up, we have 2 weeks break. We will resume on the 23rd, and on the 23rd of October, we will have a guest speaker. He will show us around how to use Claude and how he has been using prompts and AI to generate and create files. So we'll explore that with him on the 23rd. So stay tuned and take the break that we are having for Dreamforce and use it to review the previous sessions and implement the AI capabilities we tried together for different type of prompts and other sessions too, and try to have hands-on and come ready with your questions. I'd be happy to answer your questions when we are back from the break. And during the break as well, feel free to send me any questions you have on LinkedIn or Code with Sally Slack. For anyone who's joining new, welcome. We are happy to have you with us today. And I will redirect you to Code with Sally YouTube channel. There we have all the recordings for the previous sessions we have. It includes the beginner. So if you are just starting, you don't have to feel overwhelmed. We have everything for you. You can become an expert if you follow the steps we did and the way we explained it from easy to harder, like until you reach the sessions we have now. And again, if it's your first time to join, don't feel overwhelmed. Anytime, stop me, ask me questions. I will be happy to answer you to the extent that you can keep up with us during the session. And if you have further questions, I can take it offline with you after the session or answer you one-on-one. So just a reminder, on the YouTube channel, please subscribe, share it with others, spread the word. But currently, the session we are working on is part of the intermediate series. So if you go to any playlist or this one, sort it from the oldest to the newest so you can follow along, like the easier, then the harder, and so on. So we start small and we keep incrementing, like we're adding more information on top of it. So today is continuation kind of to part 7 of the invocable method. We created in part 7 an invocable, a flex template, and we grounded it with Apex, and we saw all the rules and the restrictions and how we can expose the invocable method to the flex template. Today, we'll see together how we can invoke this flex template. So let me refresh your memory. Last session, we started the session with this example where we created an LWC component. In this LWC component, we put together here a component that will help me generate the content for my YouTube videos to get faster in promoting the video after the session. So I put here a description, and we said like the other part that I usually put is the timestamp, and we put in like what's the main topic, invocable methods, for example, here, and we'll put the language and we'll generate session pack. Here, when we are calling the session pack, what will happen in the background? We are invoking from builder a flex template that we built together last time. So let me show it to you here. It's the enhanced one. And we explained together last time how we built this template and how we grounded with Apex, because we had here an Apex invocable method that we call to get us the playlist and related videos. So we saw together how we do that. And then we displayed as well the same, that we can add the timestamps here, the description, and the language, English, and main topic, invocable method. And we hit preview and we will see the output. This is the output like we got in the LWC component. What's the title, the description, what playlist I should add it to, what are the related videos, hashtags, and everything. And that's something that I have to do every session to be able to upload the video. So after like editing the video. So we saw this in action last time. And we said like the first part of it, we have to know how to do the flex template. What are the inputs, how to ground it with Apex. And that's what we ended the session with last time. We created this prompt template. We saw together how we can ground it with Apex and like the inputs passed to the parameter. We saw what's the resolve prompt and how each of those like merge fields in case of like it's input from the template or if it's an Apex, how it gets resolved, and then the generated response. And that's what we did last time. Like we just built the template and we didn't go beyond that. So until this point, we have a flex template that we cannot use it from out of the box. So we explained as well in the previous sessions the sales email and field generation, and we saw together how the field, like the sales email and field generation, they have out of the box entry point for the template. And we saw how we can use the sales email from the email composer. We saw how we can use the field generation from the record page of the field using the asterisk and edit pencil. Now we want to see how we can use the flex template and invoke it because we don't have for the flex template an entry point out of the box that Salesforce is providing. As I mentioned today, the main focus is to see, okay, we created a flex template, we have it, we grounded it with Apex and everything is fine. What next? What next would be, okay, we don't have an out-of-the-box entry point. And we said like we can access, if we don't have an out-of-the-box entry point for flex templates, we can invoke it from Flow or Apex or REST API. The main intention was to just focus on the Apex, but when I thought about it and how it would be easier to explain it, I decided to to try together first the REST API and how to invoke it from the REST API and gets used on how to read Salesforce documentation to do it. And we'll convert what we'll do in the REST API to Apex. And I thought this will be easier for you to follow. Hopefully I'm right. We'll see that together. And later on, I will create for you a bonus video offline. I don't think we'll have the time today. We'll see how it goes. But if not today, I'll create a bonus video for you and upload it on the channel on how to invoke the same Flex template from flows and see the output there. So today, the main focus is REST API and Apex. We'll start with the REST API. So for the REST API, when we talk about it, it will be always like an endpoint or a URL that someone will give you to be able to do some action. And we saw it together when, for example, we used the endpoint for the country details. We used a specific URL and we attached to the end of the endpoint or the URL the country name, and it got us like the details, like the language, the capital, and so on. So for the REST API and how we can use it with Flex template, we have here a resource, a specific resource that Salesforce is exposing for us that we can use, and it's called the Connect REST API. It's part of the Connect REST API, and the resource specifically is this one, Einstein prompt template. This is the prompt template name that we'll use, and then we say generation. So again, this is provided by Salesforce. How we will demo it together or see it together, let me show you here first, like in the future, not in this session, we'll get familiar more with Postman. It's a tool where we can test the APIs. It's harder to use, so today we'll use Workbench. But to give you an idea, this is Salesforce developers. It's all the APIs that Salesforce is exposing for anyone to use. So there is a lot of them. One of them is called Einstein prompt template. The URL for it or the resource for it is this URL to generate or to invoke prompt templates. So this is the one that we'll be using. And because we wanted to make it as easy as possible for us today, what I decided to do it in Workbench. And the reason why I want to do it in Workbench is because Workbench will authenticate together by entering the username and password, and then we can use it directly. In Postman, you have to handle the authentication and to validate that you have access to the org. So it's more step, or it's more complicated. And again, because we are taking things step by step, I want you to see it in action. And when we go to the integration and the APIs and learn more about this topic, we'll try as well to use the Postman and handle the authentication there. But for today, let's try it together on Workbench. So I will go here, Workbench. Let me put URL for you. When you go there, it asks you like, are you in production? Are you in sandbox? Because you can be working on a developer sandbox. For us, it's considered production. The org that I have created, the developer sandbox that we are creating, it's not a sandbox. It's considered production. So I will log in with Salesforce. And then here, it will ask you to enter the username and password for the org you are working with. So here, for example, I will enter the one that we are working with. It's not this one, it's another org. And I enter the username and password. So now it detects that I am in the right org that we are using. So it's the same, like it will give you a username and password. When we do that, we go to utilities, go REST resource. So that will give us the option to specify which resource we are working with, its URL, and then which method. Let me get you the documentation so we learn how to read it together. So let me give you the URL for this one. So here, this URL explained to us like how we can use the API for prompt generation or like invoking prompts. So it tells here, and again, my part of my like hope from the end of this session is for you to be more comfortable with reading Salesforce documentation and not just following the steps. We learned together before how to read it for example, string class, methods, how to see the signature, input and output parameters. So we'll do the same here. So here it's telling me this is the resource I should be using. So the resource is the URL that we'll be using in Workbench or Postman. So I will go here, see this one is telling me Einstein prompt template. So all of that will come after the version you have here. So I do backslash and put here, I have an extra backslash. And then it's asking me part of the URL or the resource that we are using, what's the prompt template name? So we have to go and check what's the prompt template name. Prompt template name, you'll find it in when you open your prompt. If you don't have the API name and you don't remember it, you can go here to the setting, open the overview, and you'll find the API name. So this is the template name that we should take and replace prompt template dev name. Okay. Now it's asking me, is it a get or a post or put, patch, delete, or what's the operation that we want to do? Again, we'll learn more about them and how to implement different types of them or how to invoke different types of operations when we come to the integration. But for this one, like I don't know which one. I will go to the documentation. Documentation is telling me it's a post. So I go back to the workbench. I say it's post. And the same for Postman. You define like what's the method name that you are hoping to do. If I do execute now, it will tell me you have to provide a body. So I cannot do it without a body. The post or this call requests a body. So I go to the documentation here. Here it tells me this is the post body you have to send. And it's giving me a JSON example. So I can take this JSON example, copy, and I put it here and paste it. Let's expand it and see in details what is the parameters. So first of all is preview. Is preview, it's required. So you cannot decide that you don't want to pass it. So I cannot say, okay, I won't pass the is preview. You must have it, okay? And you notice here the body is in form of JSON. And we saw together in one of the sessions how JSON structure is. And if we have questions about it towards the end of the session, I can like talk deeper about the JSON format, but it's usually a key and a value. So here the key is preview and we set the value to false. What's the difference between false and true? False and true means, is it, when I say it's a preview and I said no, that means I'm interested to get the response, the generated response I wanted back from the LLM. If we said uh, is preview to true, that means I want to get the resolved prompt only. Like I want to take the prompt that includes like merge fields, apex grounding, and I want you to resolve it and show me the output. So that what means like, is preview true or false? Next, we have something called an input parameter. If I go here, I'll find that this is the input parameter and it's required. That means I cannot remove it. I must provide the input parameters and it's a map. So again, we'll find this is the key input parameter. The value for it is a map. So the value map is the value for it. What's inside here? Let's park it for a minute, okay? But we'll go back for it. Next step is the additional configuration. If I go back here, additional configuration is a required parameter that we have to pass. And for the input parameter additional configuration, it can take, it's like an object that can take multiple key and value. All of them, you'll notice they are optional, except the application name. So we have to provide here a key called application name, and the value for now, we'll put it from template generation invocable. And in the past, just to give you history, like I tried to find out in Salesforce documentation what application names like are options there. I couldn't find. In the past, I used to use prompt builder preview, but with the latest Salesforce documentation here, winter 26, I see that the application name they are using currently is prompt template generation invocable. So I want to invoke the prompt template. So we'll keep it as is. So again, required is additional configuration. Is it preview or not? And input parameter. If I go back here, we have additional. Citation mode is optional. We'll skip it for now. Input parameter required, I need it. Is preview required, and the rest two are optional. So it's very important to learn how to read it, because if you try to invoke it with like without is preview, it can be wrong because it's required to have to pass. Now we have to go for the input parameters and understand how to format. So the input parameters, again, it's a map, so it's a value. Value map is the result. And inside of the map, like when we do an apex in a map, we put key and value. So it's same. Inside this value map, we have key and value. Like, let me put it in this formatter so I can show you. I can close it. So here, value map, I will close the configuration. And after that, I will open value map. Value map is key and value, pairs of key and value, key and value, the key and the value. What is the key and what is the value? I will go to our prompt template. In our prompt template here, what's the inputs? We need video description, it's a string. Video timestamp is a string. Language is a string. Main topic is a string. So we have 4 strings. Those are the 4 inputs we need to pass. The format that Salesforce is expecting us to put it in is as follows. Let me remove the input account. The reason why I would remove the input account, because when we want to pass an object, the value is not just the value in a string, it's another map, like it's another key and value. What's the ID and the ID value? But in our case, in our Flex template, we don't have any objects. We'll try the input of type object when we do it and try to call from the REST API, sales email, or feed generation. So for now, I will remove this part so it doesn't confuse us at all. Now we have, and let me remove one of the inputs. The first input I want to pass. I have input column that's fixed. Then here will be the input API name. So for my template, what's the input API name that we have for video description? It's new video description. So we have to put that after the input. So input new video description. And what's the value? The value is the whatever I want to pass. So let's take something simple as if I will type this in the LWC, or it's the value is what we tried here, like what I put in the new description. I'm just using a shorter version, so it's easier for you to follow. Then I will have a comma and add another input parameter. So the next input will be for the timestamp. And I put here for you, like I have input, new video, timestamp, and we have the value and the value that as if we are putting there. So that's the second parameter. The third will be for the language, and the fourth will be for the main topic. So again, we do comma and add another input, like input colon language. The value is English. Then the same for main topic, and the value is invocable method. So by doing that, I prepared all my inputs. Let me put it for you here, so it's easier for me to collapse and show you. So we said it's preview for the input parameters. Let's close it for now. We have additional configuration. So now I have is preview, input parameter, additional configuration, all what is required. For additional configuration, we have that the application name is prompt template generation invocable. And then for the input parameters, it's a map. So we have a map is the value. The key for it is value map. And the value is the content of the map. And we'll start putting one by one key and value. So I have here the key is input new description. This is the API name for the input. I just noticed here we need to remove the space. And the value is the string that will be passed. Same for the timestamp, language, and the main topic. Okay. Let me remove the extra space here. And I will try to execute it. When I will try to execute it, Salesforce, it's as if I'm executing the HTTP request we did for getting the country details. Like we are executing this resource with method post, and we are passing this body. So you can think of it as if we are calling a function, passing parameters, and it will return us an output. So let's execute it and see the result. It can give us an error. It can succeed if we did everything right. So now it generated the output for me. Again, the output, if you go to Salesforce documentation, the output is a JSON as well, and it's of type Einstein prompt template generation. And it explained to me the output that came back. What's the purpose or the usage of each of them? What we care about is the generation, which is the response from the LLM. And you will find something else called prompt, and that's the resolve prompt. So what will happen? We'll see in the JSON something carrying here the resolve prompt, as we see in the UI here, and something else carrying for us the generated response. So if we go there, you'll find here, see, this is the prompt. So this is the prompt that got result, like all the field, the merge fields or apex grounding got result, and that's the prompt with everything result there. Generations, and that's what we saw here. Generations, it's an array. It will have the value that we are interested in. Each generation has content quality, parameters, different parameters, but what we care about is the text, and that's the text for the response coming from the LLM. So if I open this folder, I have, it's an array. So the first item of the array, you'll find that this is the text. This is the response coming from the LLM. Okay, so we saw together how we can use a Connect API and how we use a specific resource with a specific type of method, HTTP method, how to pass parameter or input for it, and how to see or read the output for it. I'll pause here before moving to Apex and ask, like, anyone has a question. There is a question in the chat. If the application name is specific for prompt builder or general, I was saying before that I tried to find in the documentation what are the different types of application names. I couldn't find a response for that. And because mostly we are using this either from the REST API or from the Apex, like those are the two areas that I tested with. And the Salesforce documentation is saying like we'll use prompt template generations invocable. And in older article, they were using something called prompt builder preview. I tested in Apex both values and it was working fine. Let me even try this here. I pass this instead of the new value. I see this is the latest documentation. So this is winter 26 documentation. And this one is saying prompt template generation invocable. But I tried even with the prompt builder preview in Apex, it worked. Let's see here, it's executing from the REST API, and we got values as well. So far, those are the two values, prompt builder preview, and with the latest documentation, I see it's prompt template generations invocable. So I will stick with prompt template generations invocable as to match the latest documentation. But I don't know, and I couldn't find in the documentation what other application names. So you can consider yourself hard coding this value as is for now for invoking the prompt template until the documentation gets updated with what are the other options, or maybe they have it like flexible for future proofing that if they needed to be invoked from somewhere else and they want to specify a different value for it in the future. So now we saw together and I didn't memorize the values. I didn't memorize the syntax. We followed the documentation one by one, and we read like, what's the resource? What's the method? What is the JSON like body we have to pass? And we use the documentation to build our JSON and our request. And that's very important, especially with AI. Things are changing super fast. So maybe in 2 months from now, this resource and the expectation or what we will pass can be different from what we just explained now. So maybe it's very important to know how to read the documentation and make sure you are using the latest version to make sure you are not looking at something outdated. Okay, so we saw together how we can resolve or execute the template from REST API. Now you will understand why I showed to you this first. Salesforce, what they did is that everything we saw in the REST API and how we are using the Connect REST API, they are now like putting it as invocable method, not invocable method, static methods in Apex. So they have wrapped everything we just did from the API and put it in static methods in Apex in a namespace called ConnectApi. And some people will say when they are talking about it, we are using ConnectApi in Apex, or you'll hear people saying we are using Connect in Apex. So instead of using the REST API, Salesforce wrap this inside of static methods and expose those static methods for us to be able to use. And that's why I wanted to show you first the rest, because if you understood how we did the rest and how we read the documentation, it will make sense to you why we will do the things the way we will be doing now. Otherwise, you'll feel like it's too much or it's too hard. But if you understand why, hopefully that will make it easier for you. Any method in the world that we worked with will have input and will have output. And same, because the REST API was taking some inputs in a certain format and returning some output in certain format. Salesforce is providing us with some classes in the Connect API to structure and form this type of input, and some classes in the Connect API namespace to be able to deal with such output. And we saw before together when we were working with the REST API for the country, what we were doing, we created wrapper class to be able to deserialize a JSON in the wrapper class. So in a way or another, Salesforce is doing this for us as well. Like they will create for us classes to form this type of input and this type of output, and they are in the Connect REST API. So we'll be doing the same exact thing together right now when we are working with Apex and creating the same. And just to let you know, when you are working with those Connect and Apex and the methods in it, it will run in the user context. So it's not system context. It will still like respect the user permissions, what they can see, what they cannot see. So just rest assured, like it's not something as a superpower user and it's risky to use. It's Connect and Apex and the methods there will run in the user context. So big words. It's vague at this moment. We said like the Connect REST API became static methods. We have static classes or classes for the inputs, classes for the output. Let's see it in action and let's build it together. So what I want to do, I want to show you here, this is a screenshot from the Workbench that we just did together. We'll take it and split it one by one. But before doing that, let me open here. Let's create a class together. So let's create an Apex class. And what we'll be doing a static method to invoke the Flex template from. So let's call it here, for example, prompt template service English for the English session, because I will have another one for the Arabic. So let's remove this. So I prepared my like class or container where I will do my method there. Let's create a method as well. Like what we'll do is public static, and for example, let's name it invoke prompt template. And what we'll be passing to this method in real life, like when we want to execute it, you want to pass what's the template, like what's the description, what's the video timestamp, what's the language, and that what's the main topic. Again, that's what we were doing when we did here. Those are the 4 inputs. When we did in the LWC, we were filling those 4 inputs to like the description, the timestamp, the main topic, and the language. So we are preparing our template that will take 4 parameters and it will return for us string. So let's return a string for now. Okay. Until this moment, we didn't do anything specific for Flex template. Let's see how we'll do it step by step. So I keep this open here. First of all, like this URL, the REST API resource that we used, and that when we clicked execute, that will be, we said, will be translated to a method called generate message from template. It's a long name for a method, but again, it's a method from Salesforce called generate message for prompt template, and it takes parameter. First parameter is a string from template name. Second parameter is something called from template generate input, and its type Einstein prompt template generation input. We said like the resource this for the REST API will become a static method. will take inputs from the ConnectApi namespace and will put output for the Connect REST API. So let me take this signature and put it here for you. And let's put it together. So here I have, this is the method that will be calling. So I put in front of you here, I will say ConnectApi dot Einstein. This is the output, and I'm preparing the output. So the output here, it will return Einstein prompt template generation representation. And the class names are super long, but again, it's nothing we can control it. We have to use it the same way. So we have the output. Now I prepared the output that it will return in. I have to code the method. So the method, we said it's the generate template for generate message for template, and it takes template API name and then input. Okay, so let's prepare an input for us that will be available that we can use later on. So I will prepare my input that we can use. So it's again from the ConnectApi namespace. We set anything now as long as we are using Connect Apex. Connect and Apex will have everything under ConnectApi namespace. So ConnectApi, and it's the input. Again, that's the class name that it's expecting me to pass. I give it a name, and I created a new instance from this class. Now I have to pass the parameter for the method. The method take the API name for the template. My API name for the template, if you don't remember, you'll go here, settings, and overview, and it's this API name. So it'll be passing the API name for the template. So I pass it here. And the second parameter, it's taking prompt template generation input. So this is the input that we prepared of this long class name. So all what we are doing now, we call the method and we respected what it can return and what we can pass to based on the documentation. So again, we are not memorizing anything. It's based on the documentation. It returned this class name with this like namespace dot class name, and it takes string for the template name. We got it from ours, and it takes an input parameter from this class type. So to be able to pass it, we initialize this type here, and we didn't give any parameter or any setting for it. We just prepared our template to do what we want to do. So that's the first step. We prepared that we'll be calling at the end, generate template, and we give it template name and the input. What's the input in this UI? The input in this UI is this whole request. Like this JSON will be translated to Apex classes and properties. So this whole template or like body for the API is in this template, like class name, Einstein prompt template generation input. And that's what we prepare. Now this JSON or this class is empty. We have to set, first of all, is it preview or not? As any class, you'll go execute input here dot. It's is preview. So it's a property that Salesforce is exposing for us in the class. I created an instance from the class, and now I can set its properties in the object that we just created. So is preview is false. So I'm setting the is preview. Okay. Next, we have to set additional configuration. Additional configuration here from the JSON, it looks like an object because you have a curly bracket here. The value wasn't directly as false here, directly like key and value false. here it's key, additional configuration, curly bracket, that means it's an object. And then we have application name. This object in Salesforce is coming from a class called Einstein LLM additional config input. And again, I'm putting here in the screenshot the class names without the API, the namespace. So we have to use the namespace connect API, but just to make it a little bit shorter for you, I did it that way. So let's do the additional configuration together. So let's go here. I will go here and I will do additional configuration. So if I go execute template input dot, it has additional configuration. And you'll see here, it's telling you it's connect API dot Einstein LLM additional config input. It's telling me what's the class name. So I will do here new, and I'll get the connect API namespace, and I will do Einstein LLM additional config input. Again, we said when we were talking about the Einstein LLM configuration, if I open as well from the documentation, you'll find that we saw it before when we were doing the REST API, everything is optional, right? The only thing that is required here is the application name. And that's what we said here in the JSON, right? We said prompt template generation invocable. So we have to do the same in Apex. So let's go and do it together. I will do here execute input dot additional config dot, and then it's telling me you can pass, like you can control those properties. All of them are optional except the application name. So I go for the application name equal, and it's a string. I put the same string that we used. Okay, so I prepared now the additional configuration. So we prepared the method that we'll be calling, the input that we'll be passing for the method. We set is false, and we set additional configuration. The next step is we have to control the input parameters. And when we were talking about input params, we said it's a map. So we'll create a map and we'll put in the map key and value, and we'll put it as input parameters. So let's do that together. So I will have here a map. I will define a map. And how do I know the map type? Again, when you go to the Einstein here, it will tell you here, those are the inputs and the parameter, the map input parameters, if it's of type map string and connect API dot wrapped value. So again, it's telling me the documentation, what's the type, but now I want to do this map. So I will prepare the map. So I have here prepared a map, the same type, string connect API dot wrapped value. So I have connect API dot wrapped value. And then I will add it here in the input params, and I put inputs. So I prepare the map and I put it as parameter for my input object. But now the map is empty. I have to put value for each of them. The map is a string, and we learned together when we were doing in the REST API that the string will be always input colon and the API name of the parameter of the prompt template, and then the value. So let's do that together. I will put here, I have to do as per the documentation as well, string, that's, we know the format, input, then colon, then the API name, and the value will be of type connect API wrapped value. So I have to prepare for each key and value, the value of type wrapped value. So let's do that. I will do for the description first. I will do for the description first here, the wrap value. So video description. We have the wrap value. It's an empty object of this method, object type or class type. and I put here the value for it. I can put here input video description. It has only one property, which is the value. And that's explained as well here, that when we had the values, like the key, and then it's an object here. What's the object of type wrapped value that we just created? So we created the wrapped value. I put the value, it's a property for it. And I put the new video description. And I can do an extra check that if the video description is not null, use it. If it's null, put an empty string or a default value if you want to. And then I put here in my map the key and value. I prepared the value, I put the key. So for me, the key is, we said it's input in colon, and I will get the API name of the parameter, which is new video description. The value is of type wrapped value, so I will use this object. So it sounds like a lot of steps or super complicated, but if we understand it step by step, it will get easier and easier. And we'll do the same for timestamps. Again, I put for you one with like the null check so you can see what I meant. But here we are doing a red value for the value, and we created a new instance of this class. We put the value. I checked here if it's null, put it as empty. If not, put the timestamps. And then I put this in the map. So we did the description and video timestamp. We will do the same for the language and new topic. So we'll do the same for language and new topic. Here we go. So let's summarize like what we are doing. First, step one, prepare the input. We prepared the input that we'll be calling. And then we started setting values for the input. Some of the values are straightforward, they're just a property and we set the value like is preview. And some of them are more complicated. This one, for example, input parameter. We prepared the map. It's a type map, so we prepared the map. And then for each value in the map, we prepared the key and value. And we put this at the end in the input parameter. So we prepared this. Again, the additional configuration, it's an object from this type of class. So we created and we set the application name. At this point, all what we did is we prepared the input, the type or the parameters we pass for the input, and we called the method. We want to use the output. We said the output is of type, template, generation, representation. Again, we said that what we care about, we saw it together here, it's the text in the generation. That's the response from the LLM. Or if you need to show the prompt, the result prompt, you can have access to it. But in our case, we only care about mainly the generation. So again, when you do this in dot notation, you see all the values here that you can. Like prompt will be the result prompt. In our case, we care about the generations, and we can get the first generation dot, and it can show us like what we have, parameters, response ID, all those values. You can explore them through the documentation, but the text is the one that we care about more, which will return the response from the LLM. So again, I can return this, and I can say here, for example, I can return this from the method. I want to return the text, return text. So I can deploy this and we can try it together. Okay, so now it's saved. When it's saved, I can use it as a static method anywhere I want to use. So let's try it in the developer console. And after that, I will pause and ask if anyone has a question. I would love to answer your questions, please. So here I'll go and I will create here. I will use what we have here. So what I have here was a test scenario that I create. Instead of prompt template service, it's prompt template service English. It's a static method. So I will use the class name dot invoke prompt template. So I have here invoke prompt template, then I'm passing description. I can pass here the timestamps, language, and the main topic, whatever the values you have and you want to test with. And the response will be a string because that's what we are returning, and we are returning the string. The string will be the JSON response. We could deserialize or create a class, wrapper class to deserialize this response in it. What we did so far is we are returning the JSON as is. So let's try it in the developer console. If I do here now, and all of that, it's calling the prompt template, resolving the merge fields. We have Apex grounding, and it's sending this to the LLM, and let's see the debug. So the debug here is showing me, okay, yeah, this is your title, this is your description, and it will show me like the timestamp and everything will come. It just here got truncated. You can open the raw log here. Here, and we have all of that. You can even take it, copy, and can put it in the tool we are using here. Put it, process, and see. Okay, I got this is the title. We got YouTube, description, playlist, LinkedIn, Twitter, hashtag, the hashtags, the related videos. We got all the JSON that we returned from the template, returned as plain string for us. We can enhance it as well and deserialize it in wrapper class and use it. But till this point, like we are super happy. We have a method that we can call. Let's see here the session controller. I have here, when you are working with LWC, you want to have an Aura enabled method. So we created an Aura enabled method, and it will return response to my LWC. And I can open the LWC quickly for you as well, so you can imagine the LWC, and I will put it for you. In the HTML, I have all the components to render, like the text, the timestamp, the button, the sections or the accordion that shows below the section, the title, description, and everything. So this is the HTML. In the JavaScript, I'm using or importing the session pack controller dot generate, and we are calling it here in our code, and we are returning the response, and we take the values out of the JSON that is coming back. You can check this code later on. I will try before putting it on GitHub to add more comments for you to make it easier for you. But our focus is Apex for now. We'll study together LWC whenever we reach to the point there. But again, if you have any questions about the LWC, please ping me and I will answer you. But the JSON, like what we'll do is we'll prepare, like we'll send from the LWC, the description, the timestamp, language, and everything. So we will pass it to the method. All what we did is we called from template service. That's the version that I had before creating the English one today. And I said invoke template, and I passed the same parameters, the same way as we just did here in the developer console. I just did it from the controller inside an Aura enabled method, and it returned JSON here. I'm just returning either the JSON as is to the LWC, or if there is an error, I return the error. So I just created an object that have JSON and error, and I return it to LWC, and LWC will check if I have an error, will show the error message. If not, it will use the JSON and put the values on the UI. I just wanted to explain to you that once you have your service and your method it's easy to call it from anywhere. Like I can call it from here, I can call it from developer console. If I want, let's say, to create an email and send this response in email, I can do that. Like the options are up to me or wherever I want to call it. And in the future, as like a further step, we can make the call or how we call the method or like the templates more generic, like to have a method that takes the template name, takes the inputs, like we can make it generic so we don't have to repeat the steps of like preview or not, like the inputs. The structure can be more generic and be reusable across different templates, but for now, we kept it the simplest form we can do. And to recap, we compared what we did to step by step of what we did with the REST API. We learned together how to read the REST API documentation. We saw the resource, the input parameters, and then we took one by one. We explained that all this REST API, Connect REST API that Salesforce is providing, they've wrapped it inside static method and give it us like to be used out of the box. And that's what we have been using. We were using all the methods, the method inside the Connect API, all the inputs and outputs are inside the Connect API, and we call it Connect Apex. So we have been doing that. And to summarize as well, I created this flow for you. Steps, you create the input object as we did here. We have to prepare the input that will be passing to the method. Then you will create the inputs, like what are the inputs that we will be passing as if we are calling the prompt template. Then we have to configure the additional configuration. That's what we did here. Because the additional configuration, some of it is required, like the application name. So we have to pass it. We used all of that, the details of this input, along with the template name to execute the prompt. And that's what we did in this line. We called the generate messages for template. We gave it the template name and the input parameter that we prepared. And then after that, as a response, you can work with the resolution and response. And we said like the resolution will be the prompt. The result prompt will be stored in the output.prompt. And we said like if you care only about the response, you go to generations and you say like first generation.text. And the reason why we have an array, because you can say in the parameters, when you are generating, whether from Apex or from REST API, you can say, I want two generation or three generation. So it can give you three different output. And let's say you put to the user three outputs next to each other, and the user can pick, yeah, I like this more, or the third option more. But in our case, it's only one generation because we didn't specify that we want to generate more than one. And that's why Salesforce is putting this in array, because you may have 0, 1, 2, depending on the number of generations you specify. So that's like just to give you an idea of the steps. I hope it's like not too complex. We tested together how to call it from the developer console, and I will give you the LWC component and its controller. You can check it, but we had a quick look that on what we did is that we called the same method we called from the developer console inside an Aura enabled method. And this Aura enabled method can be used in the LWC component. But the most important part is how to write this method to invoke the Flex template, because this is the new thing that we wanted to make sure it's clear and like you understand it well. As a bonus, after the session, look forward for a short video on how we can invoke the same Flex template from ScreenFlow. I'll try it from ScreenFlow and I'll show you how we can invoke it from there. It will be easier than the REST API and easier from the Apex. But again, it's important to know how we can do it for each type. And depending on the use case and where you need it to be used or how you need to be using it, you will decide whether you would call it from REST API if an external application needs to invoke it, or you would call it from Apex within your application, or you would create a screen flow, for example, or different use cases. Like, it's important to know our options, and then you decide what's the best way for you to use it. Uh, Thank you so much for attending and for listening and watching the video offline. I hope it was useful. I hope the decision of starting with REST API and comparing the REST API to Apex was the right decision. Let me know, because I am planning in the future as well to create the same kind of videos for the sales email and a field generation template that we discussed in the past. I want to generate for them videos how to do it from REST API, how to do it from Apex or Flow. So your feedback is important for me. If the sequence we followed today was meaningful for you, or you prefer it in a different way, so I can take it into consideration for the next videos too. Thank you so much. As a quick reminder, we'll be off for 2 weeks. I will see you on October 23rd. We'll have a guest speaker, Bill. He will teach us and he will explain to us different use cases of using Claude in prompt writing to generate code and to show us different use cases and how we can like do more with LLM in prompt engineering and writing good prompts. And in the future, we'll see the same as well with the new Agentforce for Developer Edition and vibe coding in Salesforce as well. So it's a good thing to see different tools and get different flavors, and then you decide which tool is the best for you. So stay tuned, take the 2 weeks vacation, look into the old videos, try to implement the Flex template and other prompt templates, and come back ready with questions. I will see you on the 23rd. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you liked it, please like and share and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you on October 23rd. If any questions, send me on LinkedIn or Slack for Code with Staff. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.